Yo, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to this brand new episode of Hockeytown Rundown. You're here with me, your beautiful host, once again, Zach, on this midweek episode. And in this week, y'all decided, the fans, viewers, watchers, listeners at home, decided that we will be doing an all-time Detroit Red Wings 23. Something every diehard Red Wing fan has probably argued about at some point during their lifetimes. And yeah, we're not just doing a best of the list. We're constructing a full team, 5 forward lines, 4 D pairings, and 3 goalies, just like somewhat of a real NHL roster. It was just too difficult trying to decide through the forwards and the defenders and even the goaltenders on who should make this list. And so it's actually a 26-man roster. And before we jump into it, we want to stop and say thanks for joining us on this brand new episode. Once again, if you are returning, if you are brand new, thanks for stopping by. If you haven't already, if you are viewing or listening to us on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up, and hit that notification bell that lets you know when these brand new episodes come out during the week, our Sunday episodes where we do our full-length episodes, and then also lets you know when our short videos come out as well. If you are watching or listening to this on Spotify, you can do both, yes, and you can provide comments on there. Let us know on both YouTube and on Spotify what you think about this all-time lineup down below, and give us your all-time lineup. But go ahead and hit that follow button and rate us the 5 stars, and then as well do that over on Apple Podcasts. That truly is appreciated. And then you can follow us on all of your big social media platforms like the Twitters, the X's, the TikToks, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, and even the Threads. Go ahead and show us some love over there. Every little bit helps just by hitting that follow button and that subscribe button on all those platforms. And so let's go ahead and jump into it, boys and girls. Let's kick things off with an iconic top line. On the left wing, we've got Gordie Howe, Mr. Hockey, 6 Hart trophies, 800 plus goals, and one of the most complete players to ever touch the ice. Skill, grit, leadership. He truly did it all. And centering that line is none other than Steve Yzerman, the greatest captain in Detroit Red Wings history, 3-time Stanley Cup champion, over 1,700 career points, and the guy who transitioned from pure goal scorer to defensive leader in the back half of his career. Over on the right wing, Alex Del Vecchio, who played 22 seasons in Detroit, over 1,200 points, was second in almost every all-time stat behind Gordie Howe and Steve Yzerman. The guy was pure consistency and a perfect complement to the top line. Let me know what you think this top line would produce, whether if it's today's NHL, past NHL, whenever. Let me know what you think about these lines as I mention them as we go through this episode. Let me know what you'd also call that top line, because that is an absolute lethal top line, to say the least. Now moving over to the second line. This line has a little bit of everything. Ted Lindsay over on the left, a Hall of Famer, innovator, and NHLPA founder. He brought toughness, scoring, and a fiery edge. One of the OG power forwards before that term even existed, Mr. Ted Lindsay, who also has an award named after him. Over at the center position, you have the Russian phenom Sergei Fedorov, one of the best two-way players of the modern era of the NHL and hockey, a Hart Trophy winner and 3-time Stanley Cup champion. He could score 50 goals, then drop back and play defense if needed. No one else in NHL history could do what he did quite like that. On the right wing, you have the Swedish forward centerman Henrik Zetterberg, the 2008 Conn Smythe winner, the two-way monster and captain post-Lidstrom era. He was calm, clutch, and quietly dominant in all 3 zones. This line could lock down the best in the league and still light up the score sheet. Now, in terms of this line, could this go up against a top line that Pittsburgh would have had, like a Mario Lemieux, a Sidney Crosby, and then adding someone like a Evgeny Malkin? I actually do believe so. This is an absolute fantastic line, and it's no lie when I said that this line could not only lock down the best in the league, but still could light up the score sheet. I mean, all of these players had the ability to put up the 30 to 50 goals needed to be at the top of this league. And you can make the argument that this line could be a top line overall in the NHL. Let me know what you think about this line, and then obviously creating your own lines down below in the comments as we go through this episode. Let's move over to the third line. Now, this third line, straight finesse and hockey IQ. Slava Kozlov, one of the most underrated goal scorers during the Russian 5 era. Sneaky good shot, slick hands, and deadly on the power play. In the middle is Igor Larionov, the professor himself, pure hockey intelligence, a key part of the Wings transformation in the 90s, and an elite playmaker well into his late 30s. And on the right wing, no better fit than Pavel Datsyuk, arguably the most skilled player of his generation, multiple Selke trophies, draw-dropping highlights, and a master thief with his stick. He and Larionov together? That's just unfair, like I just mentioned. So, yeah, this line would be absolutely lethal. Once again, I do believe that this line could be a top line for the Detroit Red Wings, that they didn't have the previous 6 players, and would be a top line in the National Hockey League now, in the past, or even in the future. Once again, let me know down in the comments what you think about this line. Nonetheless, here, your fourth line is still very lethal. Over on the left-handed side, you have Brendan Shanahan, who brings the firepower, 600 plus goals, 3 Stanley Cups, and the ultimate power forward. This guy could drop the gloves and rip a one-timer past any goalie in the National Hockey League during his time. At center, you have our current Detroit Red Wing captain, Dylan Larkin, the present-day captain with speed, heart, and leadership. He's earned this spot through sheer will, and he's got the game to back it up as well. Granted, never really having the true line mates to boot with it, but maybe this will change your mind, because over on the right-handed side, you also have current Detroit Red Wings player Lucas Raymond, the youngest on this list, but he's already showing flashes of greatness, offensive instinct, strong on the puck, and poised to be a star in the next era of Detroit Red Wings hockey. Yeah, that is Brendan Shanahan. If you were to insert him on a line with Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond right now, they would be a really good top line for the Detroit Red Wings right now, because that's exactly the type of player that the Detroit Red Wings need right now. And so that's why I thought putting Brendan Shanahan here with Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond was a perfect fit. Do I agree that this is the fourth line? You can make the argument here. I really think any of these lines are interchangeable, and this is where it got really tough for me, right? I kept on changing players around and just had to make the executive decision that I felt that this was pretty confident. But I do have one more line here for you guys. And last but not least, moving over to the fifth line, the grind line. And we couldn't leave out the grind line, so we're carrying them as our extras. These 3 defined the Wings' toughness and grit in the late 90s and early 2000s. Maltby, the agitator, Holmstrom, the net front nightmare, and McCarty, the enforcer, who scored big goals and settled even bigger scores. Just ask Claude Lemieux. Absolute icons of playoff hockey. 3 of those players won the 4 Stanley Cups with the Detroit Red Wings in 97, 98, 2002, and 2008. So shout out to them, the grind line. Some of the greatest players to ever don the winged wheel jersey on the forward end. Now moving on to the defensemen and the goalies. Over on the top pair for the defensemen, you have Nicklas Lidstrom, who is the best defenseman not named Bobby Orr. And you can make the argument that Nicklas Lidstrom is better than Bobby Orr and should be known as the greatest defenseman in all of the National Hockey League all time. But with 7 Norris trophies, 4 Stanley Cups, and he barely made mistakes, like ever, he made defending look effortless. And we always joke to this day that Nicklas Lidstrom could put on the skates and still be a top 4 defenseman for the Detroit Red Wings. But moving over to his pairing partner would be Chris Chelios, who was the perfect complement. He was nasty, physical, and still playing effective minutes at age 45. He brought the edge. Lidstrom brought the control, and together you get a pairing that could dominate in any era. Find me another defensive pair better than this. Please go ahead and leave it down in the comments. I'd be interested to hear who you believe would be a better defensive pair than this. I cannot think of one off the top of my head, so please let me know what you think about that. But I do believe it would beat out any defensive pairings that you could throw out there. And then for your first goaltender, we have Terry Sawchuk. Plain and simple, 4 cups with the Detroit Red Wings, over 100 shutouts, and widely considered one of the greatest goalies of all time. He was fearless, durable, and just straight up legendary. I mean, he didn't even play with a goalie mask, and then if he ever did, it was just that little piece of cardboard that you shoved over your face. The man was scarred up for life, but he did it for the love of the game, and so that is a true number one goalie in my eyes. Now let's move over to the second pairing. Next, we've got Red Kelly, a 4-time Cup winner in Detroit and the NHL's first ever Norris level defender before they even had the award. He was smart, mobile, and responsible with the puck. And paired with him over on the right side, we have Vladimir Konstantinov, the Vladinator, one of the most feared hitters in the game, and an elite shutdown guy. His career was tragically cut short due to a limousine accident, but he was absolutely dominant during his time. And a lot of Red Wings fans do make the claim that had that incident never have happened, the Detroit Red Wings would have won another cup or two during that stint with the Russian Five and all those other players that we've named before as well too. And then over for the second goaltender, we have Dominik Hasek, the Dominator. Was unpredictable, unorthodox, and unstoppable when he was on. Even in his late 30s, he helped lead Detroit to the 2002 Cup and was a brick wall when it counted. All those windmills and just all the crazy acrobatic saves. Was some of it a little obnoxious? Yeah, a little bit over the top, but it worked for him, and that's what made it so exciting. He was an exciting player to watch. Just the way that he went about the game was just unbelievable, and definitely could be a number one goaltender above Terry Sawchuk if the Red Wings did not have a Terry Sawchuk. Now moving over to the third pair, we have Marcel Pronovost, another Hall of Famer, brought a steady presence during the Detroit Red Wings and his dynasty. He played over 1,200 games and brought elite awareness and poise, and no better than to pair him with current future Detroit Red Wing star blue liner Moritz Seider. He was a Calder Trophy winner. He's physical, calm under pressure, and just scratching the surface in his NHL career. He's already a franchise cornerstone, and this lineup gives him the mentorship he truly deserves, and I would agree with that 100%. And let me know what you think about that, Moritz Seider, and some of these younger guys being on this overall lineup. I know that there's plenty of other players that you could choose from to put on this list, but I do believe that looking at cornerstone pieces that this team has right now currently, you absolutely have to insert them into the all-time greatest lineup for Detroit Red Wings franchise. And then over at goaltending, you have Old Faithful Chris Osgood, who gets a spot because of one thing: winning. 2 cups as a starter, another as a backup, and one of the most underrated postseason performers ever. Say what you want, the guy got the job done. And it wasn't because of the names in front of him. Chris Osgood truly was a phenomenal goaltender during his stint with the Detroit Red Wings, his couple stints actually. And then the extras on the defensive side, we have Nicholas Kronwall, who brings the boom. Literally, Kronwall, you've been Kronwalled. He was physical, smart, and a key part of the Wings' dominance post-2005. Yeah, he was. He truly was. And there were plenty of instances where he would knock players out on the ice just because of his infamous hit checks, his everlasting booming hits that he would lay out on people. And he wasn't afraid that he could put up the points too. He was a very great defenseman. And then over on the right side, we put Slava Fetisov, a legendary Russian defenseman, part of the Russian Five, and an international hockey icon. Even the later stages of his career, he brought stability and world-class experience. And so there it is, everyone. The greatest 23-man Detroit Red Wings roster of all time. 26-man roster, so to say. I had to throw some extra ones in there. With legends across every generation and a nod to the stars of today and tomorrow. Now we want to hear from you. Who'd you swap in or out? Drop your takes in the comments. Send us a DM on our social media platforms as well, or reply on the social posts that we do post, letting you guys know when these episodes drop. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends. family, and everyone else. We've got more deep dives like this coming every week. Thanks for joining us on this brand new episode once again. If you haven't already, please go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button like I mentioned over on YouTube. Rate us the 5 stars, hit that follow button over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And until next time, I'll see y'all on the next one. See ya. Love you. Bye.